This is the plaintiff, Mitchell Berger. He says he and the defendant had an agreement to sell his trailer, but the guy double-crossed him and sold it on his own. That's not fair because he put a lot of time and effort into advertising the trailer, and he even had a buyer lined up with the cash in hand. The defendant can't be allowed to get away with cheating him out of his fair share, so we sue him for the $562 he's owed. This is the defendant, Mike Baronato. He says he offered a lot of his friends a $500 commission if they could sell his trailer for him. He didn't have an exclusive contract with a plaintiff or anything like that. Turns out he sold the trailer himself before the defendant could find a buyer. Now the guy thinks he's still entitled to $500? Please. He's accused of being a two-timing double-crosser.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says the defendant two-timed him from getting a cut on the sale of the defendant's trailer. But the defendant says he did it all on his own. It's the case of double wide, double cross.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Mitchell Berger?
Yes, Your Honor.
You are suing Mike Baronato for $562, the amount you say he owes you for failing to pay you a commission plus reimburse you for costs on posting something of his on eBay that he ended up selling himself. Tell me what happened.
I entered into a contract on May 8th with Mr. Baronato to sell his trailer, to act as his agent.
What kind of trailer was it?
It was a utility trailer, an enclosed 16 by 7 foot trailer.
Okay, do you have a picture of it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you reduce that agreement to writing or was it verbal?
It was in writing.
May I see that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Nice. Actually, what this says is that anything you sell it over $4,000, first expenses are taken out, and then the rest of that is shared 50-50.
Yes.
Okay. Minus anything over $4,000 minus expenses will be shared 50-50.
Yes.
All right, so go on.
I had the trailer sold for $5,000. I listed it on eBay. I have a copy of the listing. And
How much did it cost you to list it?
$62.
Okay, so go on.
I have a receipt for that as well.
May I see that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, so that kind of means that you should be, all right, so what you're saying is you had it sold for $5,000, that's a $1,000 profit.
Yes.
But then when we take away the $62 in expenses, we're left with $938 that's supposed to be split, divided by 2. Get it? Like you're adding 62, but you should be subtracting 62. All right, so you want your $469.
Yes,
all right, and so when you call him about the that you had it sold for $5,000, I assume you thought he was going to be happy. How much later was that, by the way?
June 3rd.
June 3rd, and you had entered into this agreement with him on
May 8th.
May 8th, and the agreement was for 60 days.
Yes. So I thought I had ample time.
Sure. So how do you reach him to tell him I got it sold for $5,000?
I called him. I've left messages. Mike, I have it sold. Please call me back. Mike, it's sold. Call me back. It's very important when you sell something on eBay that you maintain a good reputation. So selling and listing something that's not available ruins your reputation.
Sure.
So that also stood against me. I have the phone record showing the 5 times that I called him from my home phone. And when that didn't work, I called him twice from my cell phone. But I couldn't get the records of that. I figured if he didn't recognize the number, maybe he'd pick up the call.
And?
Never did.
When do you finally communicate with him?
Well, I didn't hear back from him until after I filed in small claims court.
Oh, and then he calls you and says what?
He threatened me.
What did he say? What did he answer about why he was gone?
He says he sold it on his own. Big deal. He says, I can do whatever I want. It's my trailer.
Okay, but you reminded him of what he'd signed.
Yes.
And he said...
Says that doesn't matter.
So if it says 50-50, even if the defendant found the buyer, does the plaintiff get a cut?
Yes.
Why?
Because they signed a contract and that's what they were supposed to get. They were supposed to split it.
Sounds compelling enough to me. Going inside the courtroom.
What's going on?
Well, he's correct in what we did, and he did come over. Mitch did come over. I did do a couple cars for him. That's how we met when I was doing the detailing.
Okay.
I'm an operating engineer. When the economy went bad, we weren't working, so I pulled some money out of the annuity and got into the business and everything.
Got into the business of detailing?
Yes.
And that's what the
mobile, I
trailer
would
was
go
for?
out- Yes, I would go out to people's houses and detail to keep busy. And Mitch had come
What
over.
had you done before that? Just in
I'm an
general?
operating engineer.
What does that mean?
I run heavy equipment
Okay.
for the union, Local 825.
All right. So at some point you decided to close the business of detailing cars and you were selling the
I
trailer
needed-
and you signed this document with him?
Yeah, because I'd sold all the equipment already and everything.
Okay, but what
I
happened
had the
though?
trailer left.
Right. So then
So we were talking and I told him if he would, if he's interested, he wants to sell the trailer because I know he sells things on eBay sometimes. I told him I'd give him $500 if he sold a trailer. I offered that
But that's not what you signed here. What you signed here is anything over $4,000 minus expenses will be shared 50-50. So if you sold it for $6,000,
Yes.
you'd be paying him
Yes,
$1,000 minus 62.
That would work out. But the thing is I told him in the beginning that I was still selling my trailer. It wasn't exclusive to sell the trailer.
Okay, wait a second. So
On our
what you're saying
contract-
is despite the fact that you signed this contract,
Mm-hmm.
that it's not exclusive?
He didn't have the exclusive right to sell the trailer. I told him I had other people trying to sell a trailer. I was trying to sell my own trailer.
Okay, but hold on one second. This agreement is between Mike Baranato
Mm-hmm.
and Mitchell Berger as agent to sell the item in question. Anything over $4,000 minus expenses will be shared 50-50. Once entered into this agreement is binding for 60 days. What do you suppose that sentence means?
If he sells the trailer,
He did.
he didn't sell the trailer. I sold the trailer. I sold the trailer on May 20th.
Who's it binding on for 60 days? If you were to try to sell your house and you had a realtor, and then you turned around and say, well, you didn't sell it, I sold it behind your back, the realtor would look at you, sue you, and then win because you have an agency contract. You're telling me to interpret this as meaning what? It's not binding on you? Once entered into this agreement is binding for 60 days. What do you think that means?
Well, in our conversations and all, though, he knew we didn't have an exclusive. So,
Who's it binding on? It can't. You can't force him to sell it, so it can't be binding on him. The only guy it could be binding on is you.
I guess it is binding on me.
Yeah, I guess it is. Verdict for the plaintiff in the amount of $469. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Well, there's the defendant just now. Boy, what just happened there at the end? What did you learn there?
I learned, just to look at it a little bit closer. I didn't think he had an exclusive to sell the trailer. I mean, I made that offer to a lot of people. Mitch put it in writing. And I guess the way it's worded there with the binding thing, Judge is right. I mean, I have no complaints. And Mitch is a nice guy. I mean, it's not going to cause a friendship or anything like that. It's just something that happened. And
All right.
there we go.
All right. Fair enough then. All right. Good luck with
Thank you.
good luck with everything. Putting it in writing is a very, very good idea.
I learned
Step
that
on in
from
here.
watching the People's Court.
That's rule number one.
Rule number one, yes.
Good. And the friendship between the two of you guys?
I have no problem with that.
All right. Very good.
He's a nice guy.
I'm glad watching People's Court paid off for you.
It really did. Thank you.
Harvey?
So if you make a deal with somebody to sell somebody's property and you have a contract that says you get a cut, it doesn't matter which of you sells it. If the contract says you get a cut, you get a cut.